Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this, your Gemini September 2024 reading and forecast. Hi, I'm Nigel St. James, clairvoyant. Well, this month we have an art deck. I think it's beautiful art, certainly some of the most beautiful paintings that I've seen still on tarot cards, even though I think that this deck, the Mary L deck, has been around for some time, so it looks like on the back incidentally. And it has a lot to say, and it has different things to say at different times, and obviously in accordance with how the cards might be placed with respect to each other. Now, you know that I provide clairvoyant readings for people all over the world by way of FaceTime or Skype. And if you're interested in exploring what might be involved in that, then just check out the information that's in the description. Now, I charge for those, I have to. I've got to eat, for example. But there's another spiritual gift that I was provided with at birth, and it's the gift of healing. Now, this has been provided to me on the basis that I get nothing in return for it. That is to say, anyone who approaches me for healing, I must provide it to them, and I must get nothing in return. That is to say, there is no obligation attached. It's for free. You will not be recommended or sold anything. You won't be talked into having a reading with me or obtaining anything from me or from anybody else. So if that speaks to you, now, if that does speak to you, as I say, the information is in the description below. Now, there are no video advertisements breaking their way into this content, and so you get to see the entire reading without interruption from commercial ads. Now, with this deck, we're going to take 5 cards because each of these speaks volumes to us. And so, show me the magic and see what there is for the highly talented and attractive Gemini. There is Justice. There's the 9 of Swords. Here is the High Priestess. What's this? The 9 of Wands. Let me take something from down the bottom here somewhere for you, shall I? Let's have a look. Oh, there's the 10 of Swords, the 9 and the 10 of Swords sitting on top of each other. Fascinating. Now, what does that mean? We'll see in just a moment. Well, why did I bring the camera around? You and I can have a good close look at the artwork that's on these exceptional cards. Together, all the cosmic energies swirl, and I'll do the reading for you. Fascinating spread of cards for you. What strikes me immediately, of course, as it probably did you when we drew them just then, is that you have the 9 and 10 of Swords sitting on top of each other. Normally people freak out when they see those cards. I'm just wondering though, because you've got Justice, which is Venus, Libra, Moon here, Moon again. Moon, of course, is reflecting the Sun. Here you have Sagittarius, and we have the Moon here as well, great power. So the benefic of Venus coming across to here, where I see Mars. Well, with this astrology here, this astrology would be Mars in Gemini, which is good, and here we have the Sun in Gemini. So these cards are not predictive of anything bad that's going to happen to you. I think rather this is just bringing to your attention some things for you to do, some soul work to to weed your mental garden, if I can put it like that. Because everything else here, including these, is really good. Let's have a look first at this card here, Justice. Now, the depiction here is that of the Egyptian goddess Ma'at at the funeral service of a person who had just died in ancient Egypt. And what happened was she held a set of scales. There's a lot of Libra around here. She had a set of scales. On one side of the scales was this ostrich feather, and on the other side was that of the heart of the person that had died. And that's because the heart was considered to be the person. Now, if the heart and the ostrich feather remained in balance, it meant that the person had led a good life, and they went on to eternity with the god Osiris. If, however, the heart outweighed this feather, then the heart was thrown to a goddess known as Amit. Now, Amit was the goddess who had the head of a crocodile, the forequarters of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus. Three creatures which were deadly to those along the Nile in ancient Egypt here. But I see Venus, as I say, the great benefic here, this benefic ruling Libra with Saturn exalted. Now, this is all about, I think, balance and equilibrium for you now, and there's a great degree of karma here. Karmic cause and effect, and you actually receiving the payoff from karma here. There's justice, of course, a balance, maybe adjusting the way that you look at things. I suspect that you're holding back before making a decision on something or before taking action on something so that you can look to see what all the facts are and what the territory is. There's perhaps a balancing of opposites here. Now look at this blue color that's in there. Well, blue is the color of spiritual and intellectual power, which of course you have in spades, don't you? And that intellectual power includes things like thinking, ideas, wisdom. And this color of this headdress here, to me, speaks of the color of creativity and the power to put ideas into action. Now, this feather is pointing downwards to the earth, which means that your thoughts are directed towards and put in contact with the earth. So your ideas are going to be able to come into form. Now, there's no doubt also from what energy is around here that this is really a call to you to avoid all extremes in your daily life. Now, this can refer to emotional disturbances in relationships or at work, in some creative activity perhaps, or in your dealings with money. There's a total centeredness and inner balance. They are needed now if these great new ideas arising in you are to bear fruit. Because you do understand that from a position of balance, everything develops in a balanced way, in its place, and given its appropriate value. I might just also say a couple of things of karma which are coming through here about karma for you. Look, do you know, people get into a heavy-duty sin and guilt trip, feeling that if things are going wrong, that means that they did something bad and that they are being punished. Well, that's not the idea at all. The idea of karma is that you continually get the teachings that you need to open up your heart. Now, to the degree that you didn't understand in the past how to stop protecting your soft spot, how to stop armoring your heart with steel, you're given this gift of teachings in the form of your life to give you everything you need to move forward. This is very much a self-development, a working on yourself energy that's coming around here for you this month. Now, I will also say in respect of karma, because it's often spoken about, isn't it? Do you know, your faith is your conscience, and your conscience, that is your faith. You cannot have faith without a conscience, but you can have a conscience without faith. Now, we were designed to be good with or without religion. Yet the challenge for many people, of course, is staying good. Now, we all know of some people who claim to be religious but who have no conscience, while some people, without religion, are very much aware of their conscience. Therefore, a religious label doesn't define your character or validate your worth. Now, in the end, we'll all be judged by the amount of truth in us. And, like the scale here, the weight of our hearts. The heavier the conscience, the heavier the truth, the lighter the heart, the higher it goes. The only spiritual cash that you have in the afterlife, in a sense, is amassed in the form of light. In that, the amount you have depends on the weight of your words and deeds while living. Conscience is everything. Conscience is what connects us to the truth and light of the highest power, the source, being itself, the cosmic heart of the universe. Well, let's press on quickly, shall we, and have a look at this. See, this is very much about what's going on within you as well, as far as I can see it here. And what can I say from this? Look, we all have a darkness within us, places we can't easily see. It is our subconscious and our unconscious, places that are not illuminated by the sun. Now, if consciousness, in a sense, was an ocean, waking consciousness would only be a small island on that surface. And that comes into play here when we talk about these cards as well. Now, the subconscious would be all of that which is below. And there is no end to it. It is the bottomless abyss. This is where the high priestess lives, where it is dark. Now, you will find that you are going to be in touch with your intuitive abilities. There's a great degree of healing going on with you at the moment, and I'm sure it's got something to do with these as well. There's a rejuvenation. There's an independence here. There's increasing self-confidence and discovering your own truth. And there's an emotional stability which comes here as well. Now, this is very much governed by the energy of the moon here. And the moon represents the cycles and going with the flow of life is what I see. Now, you will be in touch with your intuitive abilities, and you must trust them completely, because you will be able to understand and be connected with your own inner voice, that internal guide and healer. Just as this high priestess is. And with her, it shows outwardly in her trust in and responsibility to herself. Now, like the camel, which, as you know, can travel long stretches in the desert without water, you, when you have discovered your own inner spring, you are going to radiate a really satisfied sense of self-sufficiency. You will find the fertile oasis within you. The more you accept yourself and share with others, the deeper the clarity of your perceptions is going to become, which is represented by this brilliant moon, which is married to and sits in front of the sun. Now, good, we come to these swords. Well, because they have randomly come out as 9 and 10 when pulled out from different parts of the pack at different times, I am convinced that this is really a time of teaching for you, rather than it is saying that you are going to have anything bad happen to you whatsoever. In fact, what's going to happen to you is that you are going to come to terms and be happy with yourself, and then you're going to press on for success and abundance. Now, here is the Nine of Swords. Now, I see it, as I said, of being Mars in Gemini. Look, here is the thing to remember. Sometimes we can have negative thoughts about ourselves. Here, it is because the one-pointed nature of Mars doesn't sit well with what I might respectfully call the scattered energy of Gemini. Now, you may or may not know that Gemini represents that impulse in the creation of manifestation where unity, divinity split into polarity, and it's split into every direction so that you can have different aspects, positive, negative, up, down, forward, here, male, female, different colors. The point is that without polarity, there can be no attraction, and without attraction, there can be no further creation of manifestation. So it's of necessity, a scattered energy. Now, Mars, though, in Gemini, particularly for you, if you are born, I think, on the 1st through to and including the 11th of June, you can get very fired up and use words as your weapon of cruelty. And this number 9 here, mystically, I have associated with the moon, which is kind of feminine and passive. And that's not holding Mars back. But in general, what you need to remember is, well, look, there are times, I'm sure, where you do feel that maybe you're being cruel to yourself. Self-accusations, punishing yourself, passive resistance, almost like a martyrdom comes with you. There's a cruelty directed at yourself. You know, in the healings I do, very many of them are about resolving this issue. Now, there can be a tendency to put yourself down with immense energy. That's Mars. And in the past, of course, destructive accusations made by parents or teachers in your childhood, well, they continue with you with undiminished hardness, and they do actually affect you, all of us, unless we know what we're doing, even long after they've occurred. The problem is that you can take on the role of accuser. And when you're talking about thoughts that are recurring, 9 is a recurring number. If you multiply any number by 9, you end up with 9. 9 threes are 27, 2 and 7 are 9. 9 nines are 81, 8 and 1 are 9. You can do that with trillions. It always comes back to 9, so it's recurring down. You lie there prone, helpless, while a victim, while these thoughts that you create rain down upon your still, quiet body like bombs from overflying aircraft. Now remember, a thought is a picture that you have created, and it is surrounded by words that you have created. So a thought and the words that go with it are a picture that you have created and a narrative that you have created. Your life is what you think it is. I'm sure there's a line from Shakespeare's Hamlet that says, "There is nothing either good nor bad, but thinking makes it so." Now, everything begins with your thoughts, but thoughts, they also control your feelings, and then feelings control your actions. And then you justify your actions by going around in this 9 sort of loop back to the thought. Remember, whatever you focus on, you get more of. Remember, you are a very strong person. And with Mercury as your ruling planet, Mercury is the embodiment of thought. It is the embodiment of intellect. And so your intellect is a massively powerful thing to use for good, or it can be used to turn against yourself. You might make the wrong choice and then torture yourself with a bad conscience because you chose wrong. How does that torture come about? Because nobody can torture you the way that you can torture yourself. You know your Achilles heel. You know how to get at you. Identify the thought, see what it says, and say, "I do not accept you. I understand you've shown up, but you don't belong in my life." Now let's see what this 10 has to say to you by way of instruction, not by way of saying what is definitely going to be happening to you. Gee, this is an interesting picture. This reminds me of, look, the Christian evangelicals, the fundamentalists, the fundies will probably know this better than I do, but this reminds me of a verse in the last book of the Christian New Testament called the Book of Revelation, and it's chapter 6, verse 7, which says, I think, that then the Lamb broke open the 4th seal, and I heard the 4th living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there was a pale-coloured horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades followed close behind. Now they were given authority over a quarter of the earth to kill by means of war, famine, disease, and wild animals. Again, I say I don't trust my memory necessarily for that. You might want to look it up. It's in chapter 6 anyway. I think it's verse 7. Well, this is the sun in Gemini. Look, this is difficult also because of that scattered energy of Gemini that we spoke about before. And the focus here can at times become totally on the mind. However, the thoughts in the mind are unstable. Now, they're unstable because this 10 is devolving. It's about to go into another suit that's here. So there's negative thinking associated with this as well. But very much that's coming through here is a feeling of, in the context of these other cards here, is about repression of feelings. Now, what you are feeling is not something that should just be ignored, but something very significant. The feeling inside you will not easily disappear just because you decide to suppress or ignore them. What the heart hasn't wept for, other parts of the body and the mind later weep for themselves, but in unpredictable ways. So some problems can come about when repression becomes a habit, and the energy of those suppressed emotions are unable to find a healthy outlet, just as stagnant water becomes fetid, poisonous. So it is with your emotions. Now, let me tell you that there is no great reward for being emotionally withdrawn, no pity prize for bottling your frustration. No one's coming to congratulate your continuous self-repression. Now, by opening up, maybe you will inconvenience some people. Maybe you will trigger some conflict. Maybe you will be rejected or criticized or judged. Now, everything comes with a price, and everything has its compensation, though, as well. Do you know, live the authentic life. Authenticity generally requires pain. It's normal. But it also opens the doors to joy, creativity, self-respect, empathy. Now, self-repression, on the other hand, costs you all of the beauty of the world in exchange for a prison of comfort. Is that really worth it? Isn't it really time to break free? And for the men here in particular, it's okay to cry. As I say, what the heart has not wept for, other parts of the body and mind, they do weep. And if you weep, weep like a person possessed until every one of your precious tears has been let flow. Now, finally and quickly, because I'm aware of your time, we did spend some time on this soul-searching stuff. Look, it all has, for you, going through this process has an enormous benefit to you, because here we have the moon in Sagittarius. What you get is you get endurance here. You get power that's gained through unifying your conscious and your unconscious energies. There's a wholeness with you now, a determination, a strength of character. You can show courage under fire, and what you have worked for, you get the rewards of. And you have a great belief in yourself. Now, just look at those other cards that were there. This is also saying to me that when the unconscious becomes visible, you could be faced with many things you've covered up in order to avoid looking at them. This can produce fear of some sort. The fear of feeling painful wounds that you've covered up and hoped to forget. But you can't forget them, deal with them, validate those feelings, and weep if necessary. There could also be a fear of your yet unproven strength, which is what I think is going on here, and that's going to reach into all the areas of your life, reorganizing them and making you stronger. Now, because this has turned up, and it's turned up in the context of these cards here, you can definitely be reassured that you have what it takes. Even in times of difficulty and stress, inner strength is going to rise up from within you and guide you towards your goals, towards success, towards love. And in the process, of course, you're going to learn a lot more about yourself. You're going to gain a new all-round perspective, which is going to bring you security and self-confidence. Now, having gone through this internal weeding of the garden, I think that you can now say, I know more and more clearly who I am, and this recognition leads to the full development of my potential strength. What a fascinating spread of cards for you, wouldn't you agree? And so much better for having you here. Well done, you. You did a great job. What a great reading for you. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I thought, and these cards are gorgeous, I think, in a way, but you know, I'm no artist, but they just appeal to me. Now, unless I see you privately for a clairvoyant reading or for a healing in the meantime, then I'll see you here again this time next month. And until then, though, remember one thing, and it is this, that you are a legend. And I look forward to seeing you again next month. And until then, it's bye for now.